And he said, well, of course, but not the real harsh ones. I have to tell you, I've used some really harsh curse words. So, you know, the really good ones, the juicy ones. So, but that I know is not what you're asking. Look, I would argue that most in the Republican field right now seem to be looking for a continuation of Bush-Cheney policies. I mean, they basically want to continue the same path on the war. They basically have taken the same posture with respect to the economy. They don't seem to be very aggressive in solving the healthcare problems that I'm hearing about as I travel across the state. So I think there's going to be a very clear choice between myself and any of the Republicans, whether it's Mitt Romney or John McCain or others. And I think the question you've got to ask yourself, and I appreciate you being here, the fact that you're a registered Republican, you come into this, shows that we can have a conversation. And probably, you won't agree with me on everything that I say. I mean, there's some things that I believe that the Republican orthodoxy doesn't. For example, I think that we have to have fiscal responsibility. That's something that Kent talks about all the time. We have increased, so we've gone from $5 billion as a kid to $5 trillion to $9 trillion during this administration. I mean, we've almost doubled the debt that we're leaving behind to our children. So part of that is this war, which will have cost us by the time it's over about $2 trillion probably, maybe even more. That's optimistic. Part of it is we initiated tax cuts to folks who didn't need them and weren't even asking for them. I've got a friend in Omaha named Warren Buffett, who he made $46 million last year. He had an off year, and he has calculated that he pays a lower tax rate than anybody in his office, including the secretary. And by the way, he says, I don't have a fancy tax planner. My tax planner is George W. Bush. And he's been willing to bet any Fortune 500 CEO that their tax burden is lower than their secretaries. And the reason is he makes most of his money in capital gains and dividends. And his payroll tax stops at $97,000, which for most of us means we're paying 100%. We're paying payroll tax on 100% of our income, but for him means it's one fraction of 1%. The point he makes is this is not fair. Now, right now, the Republican Party is saying, well, you know what? We need more tax cuts. We can't. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So you can't cut taxes for the very wealthy, fight a war, and somehow balance our budget and not leave debt to our children or borrow $1 trillion from the Chinese. And so I will roll back those tax cuts to the very wealthy. Republicans will attack me for that, but it's the right thing to do. I think it's appropriate for a future. And I'm glad you're here.